Welcome to my program, Bashy's Corner. We invite guests in the studio to discuss with them culture, politics, integration of minorities, and any other issue which is interesting for the society. And today, I have a very, very special guest, and I will tell you later who him. Danish society is very educated. They use internet like no other nation in the world. They're very open-minded, and most Danes agree that the root of terrorism in Denmark is Islam. Denmark is also a close ally of USA, and we all know that USA pretends to be the leader of the free world. That is why when something goes wrong, or if some citizen criticizes America, then many Danes, they go up in arms. Today, I have invited a very special guest to discuss an issue that is very popular among minorities and also some Danes, namely 9/11 and the consequences of that event which changed the history. I recently attended a lecture by my guest, and my guest is Associate Professor Niels Harrit.
Thank you. Now retired.
You're retired,
yes,
okay,
please.
But you have been teaching at the Copenhagen University for many years.
40 years, yeah.
For 40 years. And I must admit that my skepticism about the whole 9/11 theory and the conspiracy, when I listened to the professor the other day, I had to admit, that I had to change many of those things I was having in my head. Professor Harrit, thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me on.
And it's very honored that a man of your knowledge and stature is here. Let me start by asking, you are a respected chemist. You have been, as you said, you have been teaching at the university. But somehow in the Danish society, the people know you as the man who rejects 9/11 theories, official theories. Why is it so?
Well, up until recently, I'm just an ordinary citizen, and I maybe will question your statement. I don't believe that I'm well known in this respect, but it's a certain fact that I have given a huge number of presentations on this issue.
Yes.
I do not have access to the mainstream press. So this is the jungle drums, this is the word of mouth actually spreading my message, which is pure from a scientific point of view, if we should make it shortly, that the official account of 9/11 does not hold. It's a violation of the fundamental laws of nature.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
That we'll discuss in detail, but
yes.
You said that the mainstream media is not interested in your work or in your theories. Why it is so? Because we have a very free media, they like to listen to new things.
Yeah, this is not a question you should ask actually to the editors of the main newspapers and the TV stations.
But what is your take on that?
Well, I think obviously what I'm claiming is that the official narrative is wrong. And since this has been the model or the explanation which has been promoted by the media, nobody wants to admit that they have been wrong. This is a basic nature.
And also the media?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay.
I have had few exposures on mainstream media, but it always stops when you get to the main editor's desk. Let me put it this way. So one very simple illustration of this is the following, that on September 11, 2001, on Manhattan, there were 2 airliners which slammed into the Twin Towers. But there were 3 skyscrapers collapsing on that day. So every ordinary person who can count to 3 should already smell a rat here, there's something wrong. There were 2 airliners, but there were 3 skyscrapers. Now the 3rd skyscraper, which we call Building 7, because there were 7 buildings in the World Trade Center. This 3rd the collapse of this skyscraper is not shown on the mainstream television.
But why it is so?
Yeah, this question you have to direct, you have to bring in one of the main editors or chairman of our national TV and ask him, why don't you show Building 7? Because when I ask my audience, when I show it, when I give a presentation and I show Building 7 collapsing, I usually ask the audience, how many of you is seeing this for the first time? And all the hands come up. That means nobody has seen the third skyscraper, because it is a smoking gun. And for my own part, I saw it for the first time in 2006. And this was a revelation in the sense that I understood that if this was World Trade Center, this building collapsing, it meant that the people who decides what I was supposed to know, they had decided that I should not know about the third skyscraper. And that made me a bit angry, actually, because we have a TV license in Denmark, and I have paid TV license since I moved from home. I'm reading a Danish daily newspaper, so I have paid my dues. I'm following the mainstream press, and still I had not heard about this third building. Why is that? Okay. Now that question you have to give to the proper people
definitely
responsible.
We'll discuss that.
Very
but
well.
When did you get interested in this topic?
This was the late 2006. Okay. I would not say that I got interested, because when you see something like that, and this is a very natural reaction, you get a sensation there's something wrong here, and maybe I should not know about this, because it's painful. It's painful to realize that you have been cheated on. Okay. Nobody wants to be lied to, and we all basically want to tell the truth. So when you realize that somebody is cheating on you and is lying to you, it's a painful revelation, in particular when the people doing it are those responsible for us, our politicians, our journalists, everybody, the mainstream press. So it's painful. So when you get close to that, you get a feeling, maybe I should not go any further, because this is painful to realize this. And it happened to me as well. But after 5 or 6 weeks, I realized that this was a call, and it was maybe payback time for me as a scientist, because I have had a very good education at the university. I've been paid for 40 years actually for studying nature. Yes. And this is a scientific issue for me. It's basically study the chemistry and physics of the collapse of the World Trade Center.
So that is what
and I know quite a bit about that, actually.
That is what made you interested.
The fact that I couldn't understand why this building 7, 47 stories, 186 meters, was just collapsing at 20 minutes past 5 in the afternoon, just like that. It's basically, I couldn't understand why this building was just collapsing.
Okay. Before we go further, for my viewers, I just want a little clear picture. You have two twin towers,
yes,
which is World Trade Center.
Right.
And they have also small buildings around.
That's
and
right.
Then this building 7 is a little bit away from that.
110 meters from the North Tower.
So it's not part of that same complex.
It is.
Okay.
The World Trade Center was the center.
Yes.
Of a total of 7 buildings.
Yes.
It's not just the Twin Towers, which I believed up until late 2006. I thought that the World Trade Center were the Twin Towers.
Yes.
This is not correct.
Everybody thinks
it
like
was
that.
the center. And the 7th of these buildings was huge. If for any of your viewers who lives here in Copenhagen, you should go to the main hospital, Rigshospitalet as we call them, and double it twice. So 3 times our biggest building here in Copenhagen. It's a gigantic building for Danish standards. And we do not have any building getting close to that.
Okay, so we know that these 2 World Trade Center, 2 twin towers, they were mostly business people and offices. What was there in this building 7?
Yeah, that is interesting, but maybe it's just a footnote. But of course, there were broker companies and banks. It's not so interesting. What's interesting in this context is that the Department of Defense, as they call it, had offices in the building. Pentagon, oh yes. CIA had their New York undercover headquarters in the building. Secret Service had the biggest office outside of Washington, D.C. with 200 employees. And what some people find particularly interesting is that the Securities and Exchange Commission were occupying the 12th and the 13th floors. And Securities and Exchange Commission is a federal bureau which is investigating fraud in corporate America. And some people believe that they are doing more than they should do, and other people believe, righteously, that they should do more than they do. But fact is that at this point of time, there were on the 12th and 13th floor, the acts of, or the documents of between 3,000 and 4,000 unsettled cases, which were destroyed when it collapsed 20 minutes past 5 in the afternoon.
And it happened in the afternoon, so there was no people in the building?
No, it was evacuated. Nobody died at the collapse, at the time when the building collapsed.
And the 3,000 people died in the other incident?
When the Twin Towers collapsed, a total of 3,000 people were killed, yes.
Okay. Now, in recent years, as I understand, you have become known as the critic of this general explanation, whether it's American or Danish, of what happened in this 9/11. So, Professor, what is your concrete, basic critique of this whole scenario?
They were been lied to.
Directly?
Yes, absolutely.
By who?
That is, well, whoever is writing our newspapers, or all the journalists, and by the mainstream press and the politicians.
But it's not the media or the press who have brought down the buildings.
Well, they are complicit in this disinformation.
Okay.
That's obvious. I mean, you're reading the newspaper,
yes.
You're reading that Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda and the 19 hijackers attacked the United States. It's simply false. It's wrong. And how can I say that? Because the official narrative is in violation of Newton's laws. We are talking about fundamental laws of nature. The official narrative is simply incorrect.
Okay.
The 3 skyscrapers did not collapse due to the 2 airliners.
Okay. At that time when you started taking interest in this issue, you were still teaching.
Yes.
What was the reaction of your colleagues?
Oh, this is a subject which is not discussed as far as I know within academics, and it's not discussed very much in society in general.
Okay.
Things may have changed in later years, but it's definitely a bad career move to bring this issue up at the lunch table.
Very clear. In your lecture, when I attended your lecture, you focus a lot on structural design, gravity forces, and the way the building fell. What do you base this on, if I ask?
Measurements, data, and observation. Okay. This is how science works. And if I may make an example, I need some kind of object, because now I want to, may I borrow your pencil? Yes. Now I want to demonstrate the phenomenon of free fall. Okay. This is what happens to this pencil when I release it here, it falls freely down here. Yes. And this is what happens to the 47th floor story of Building 7. When it starts moving, it is falling as if there was nothing below it. Okay? It means that at that time, all supporting structure of this building has been removed. And this is 24 core columns, and it is 57 columns in the perimeter. All of this supporting structure has been removed when the building starts to collapse. This can only be done by means of explosives and what you call incendiaries. This is how this demolition, it was a controlled demolition. It's a completely ambiguous indication of a controlled demolition. And point being that it takes months, half years to rig a building for a controlled demolition like this.
So, but could it be that then not only that building number 7, but the other buildings, the Twin Tower, were also rigged then?
Definitely. But
so
from
you're saying to me that there was some forces behind who wanted to take down these buildings?
Apparently, this is the conclusion you have to draw. There's no way around it.
Based on science?
Based on fundamental laws of science.
Okay. But to public eye, when you see the plane hitting, so you see the flames and you see, you know, how can we deny that?
Oh, this happened. There was an object by the size of a Boeing 767 hitting the Twin Towers, two of them. And you see the big fireball, off went the jet fuel.
Yes.
That's what happened to the jet fuel, 90% of the jet fuel. And in spite of that, in the following days, people were told that the jet fuel melted the steel, which is completely rubbish and total nonsense.
And how high the temperature has to be for steel to melt? Steel
melts typically around 1500 degrees centigrade. And you can never achieve that temperature in ordinary office fire. It's completely beyond reach.
Not even when the plane hit the building?
There was, of course, there was a mechanical impact.
Yes.
There were some columns destroyed. But it makes absolutely the building should not collapse due to that. Buildings were constructed to absorb the impact of airliners.
And they don't go like this, like a pancake?
Absolutely no.
Okay.
There are many reasons for rejecting that model, that theory.
In 2009, you, together with some international experts, you published a scientific article on which you claim to have found termite in the dust from the World Trade Center collapse. How did it happen?
How did it happen?
Yeah, how did you get there and those experts?
Oh, that's a long story.
No, just short.
Yeah, because my contact with this team of scientists happened in, let me think, early 2007. I think I was asked to join this team.
Oh, they asked you to join?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was actually very honored to be asked, and I accepted that. And it took us 18 months to carry out this work and get the paper published.
And they were from different countries?
No, not really. We are 9 authors, right? And I'm from Europe. There's one Australian, and the other one are Americans.
They're all Americans.
Yeah.
So it means that
there's one Australian.
Okay, that means that even in American circles, the experts, there is a lot of suspicion.
Yes.
Of what happened.
No. Academic has been gagged.
I mean, also basically, have been gagged.
Oh yeah, academic, and this is a different broadcast, a different issue. We could discuss that maybe in another episode.
Sure.
Because academia has been gagged since 9/11, and
academia.
And it has happened frighteningly fast. In Denmark, the key event in Denmark was a new legislature, a law for the university in 2003, where they changed actually how the university is being operated in 2003.
Professor, why are they scared to getting the truth out?
Why?
Why are they scared? Those people who are behind those, action. Why people are scared not to see the truth in front of their eyes? It's a free society.
Well, maybe I would question that because you have all power is based on fear, and all wars are based on deception. If you want to start a war, you have to fool the people. You have to trick them into war. And this country, Denmark, has been to war now for 15 years, almost. And it is based on a lie. So those who want to start the wars and throw bombs on people around the world, they are scared of the truth.
Okay.
Of course, the truth is the best guardian or weapon against war. It has been said that the truth is the first casualty of war. And we agree. It means that the truth is your best, what you call, shield against war.
Okay.
So telling the truth is the way to stop wars. And there may be apparently people who are not interested in that.
Okay. In March 2015, last year, there was a new petition for a new inquiry by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. How far have you come?
Oh, this effort has been going on for years. I mean, we have, and particularly there's an organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. There are more than 2,500 architects and engineers, and I know you're an engineer, and you may actually join. I cannot. I'm not an engineer. I'm a scientist. Yeah. So But there are more than 2,500 architects and engineers who are putting their business, their reputation, and everything on the line in the demand for a new, unbiased, independent, technical investigation of the collapse of World Trade Center.
Would it happen?
Eventually. But my world picture is kind of different. I think everything will become crashing down. And so it is more a question of how many people who are well informed in this, and this will happen very soon. Okay. Then we have to talk about
in Denmark
economics.
You have been slandered as a loony and a crackpot by Weekendavisen, you know, a very rich newspaper. You sued them, but you lost.
Yeah.
Why?
Because the court ruled in violation of the law. I should have won if they had ruled according to the law, because it was obviously libel. And you're not allowed to tell lies about other people in the public domain. But they ruled differently. They ruled opposed to the laws. I mean, don't have any high thoughts about that. Denmark is not so bad as other places in the world. I perfectly agree with that. But if I had won, which I should have done, but if I had won, the gate would have been blown wide open.
Okay. You have a home page and a blog. How are the reaction from ordinary people when they read it and when they listen to it?
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not on Facebook.
No, not Facebook, but you have a home page.
Nope.
No?
Now somebody
there's a home page with your information.
Yeah, but I'm not involved with it.
Okay.
And I don't know the people actually who put it up. And they did it a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I have seen it, looked at it once in a while, and it's outdated, and so no.
Okay, so let's come back to that. The lecture I attended, there was a lot of young people with ethnic minority background in the lecture. They were sitting with me behind You know, people from different countries. You know. Are you very popular among them because of this conspiracy theories? Because they believe that from day one, people from third world countries, they say this is American job. You know, they didn't believe in that.
Yeah.
So somehow you are supporting their conspiracy theories.
Well, two questions regarding conspiracy theories. There's only one conspiracy theory here.
Okay.
And this is the one with Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, and the 19 hijackers. A conspiracy means that more than two people are conspiring to do a crime. Okay. And so the official narrative is a conspiracy theory because it claims that Osama bin Laden conspired with the 19 hijackers to attack the United States. This is the only conspiracy theory I'm dealing with.
Okay.
Do you believe in it? I shouldn't ask that. But if you could ask other people if they believe in it, and if they say yes, your next question should be why. Because fact is there is absolutely there is zero forensic evidence that the official conspiracy theory is correct.
They found a passport outside, you know.
Come on. This is a ridiculous joke. This pilot was flying at 945 kilometers per hour. Approaching, if he did, he was not. There were no hijackers. That's another thing. But according to the official narrative, he should roll down the window and throw out his passport while trying to hit 60 meters. You can't do that.
Let me understand, Professor. You were saying that the plane, there was no hijacker. The plane was automatic flying.
Put it this way.
There was a plane.
Put it this way.
Yes.
Regarding the Muslim hijackers, there's no evidence, zero evidence, that these young 19 men boarded the 4 planes. There are no Arabic names on the official flight manifestos. There are no tickets. There are no boarding passes. There are no TV footage, video footage from the airports. 7 of them were alive the next day, and they turned up and say, hey, I'm here. One even gave a press conference from Casablanca, Morocco, transmitted by BBC, and I'm sitting here. So there's absolutely zero evidence that these young men, 15 of them saw this. There were no Afghans actually among these 19, but there's no evidence that they ever boarded those planes.
Okay.
And a lot of other things, but we only have a limited time here. There were no hijackings. And
Okay.
you can only, that's correct, if
Okay.
we go back to the technical issue. If you want to hit 60 meters with 947 kilometers per hour with an airliner, it can only, in 300 meters altitude, it can only be done with guidance, with radio guidance.
Okay.
You cannot operate that manually.
So let's assume that your theory or your proof is okay. And if Al-Qaeda was not behind that, then the question comes, who?
We don't know. Fact is that the event has never been investigated as a crime. This may surprise people, but it has never been investigated as a crime. Terror accidents are not investigated. They usually close the investigation, and this happened already on September the 12th. So Osama bin Laden was never wanted for 9/11.
No.
You know, FBI have a web page where the most wanted persons, and Osama bin Laden was on, but he was not wanted for 9/11. He was wanted for the terror attacks in Southeast Africa, in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. He was wanted for the attack on the USS Cole in Aden. So in 2005 there was a journalist, his name was Ed Harrit. He called FBI and said, how come you're not wanting Osama bin Laden for 9/11? And FBI, the official spokesman, his name was Rex Tong. He quite bluntly asked, and this is because FBI does not have any forensic evidence, hard evidence connecting Osama bin Laden with 9/11.
Okay.
And he himself also on never occasion he said, I'm not involved in this. And this you can hear on Danish television actually on the day.
But in Denmark it is assumed that Islamic terrorism is the biggest threat today. Do you support this theory?
Terrorism is not an Islamic specific thing.
Terrorism is terrorism.
For comparison, in the year 2015, last year, the American Air Force dropped 23,000 bombs on the Middle East. So so terror is not an Islamic thing. That is one thing. Terror is simply the way you rule. And it's been like that through ages. And one thing is whoever is carrying out the attack, which is very rarely investigated, because usually you shoot somebody and then you close the investigation. But what really counts is who is orchestrating the event. And this we don't know.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor.
You're welcome.
Time went very, very quick. And our viewers, I'm sure that they have understood this whole issue of 9/11 in a completely different light. Until next time, take good care of yourself.